There comes a point in life when we realize that people, no matter how much we try to control the situation, will be people. They will frustrate us. They will misunderstand us. They will push our buttons, test our patience, and sometimes, if we let them, steal our peace. But here's the thing, we don't have to be at the mercy of every irritation, every offense, or every negative word that comes our way. See, the enemy would love for you to believe that your peace is tied to how other people treat you. That if they are kind, you can be kind. That if they respect you, you can respect them. That if they don't cross the line, you won't react. But that's a lie. The truth is, your peace, your joy, your ability to stay unshaken, it's not in their hands. It's in yours. It's in the choices you make, the perspective you carry, and most importantly, the God you trust. Now, let me tell you something. The reason so many of us find ourselves angry, bothered, and frustrated by others is not because they have too much power over us. No, it's because we've given it to them. We've handed over the keys to our emotions, allowing their words, their actions, their opinions to determine how we feel, and that is not the life we were meant to live. That is not the freedom that has been promised to us. The Bible tells us, great peace have they who love your law, and nothing shall offend them. Psalm 119, 165. Nothing. Not a rude comment, not a bad attitude, not a betrayal, not a misunderstanding, nothing. That means that the way you respond to the people around you is not about them. It's about you. It's about what you choose to hold on to and what you choose to release. So if you've been walking around with frustration, if you've been carrying offense, if you've been allowing the words or actions of others to dictate your peace, today is the day that ends. Because I'm here to tell you, you don't have to live that way. You don't have to be tossed back and forth by what people say or do. You don't have to let their negativity become your burden. There is another way, a better way, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Your peace is your responsibility. No one can take it away from you unless you willingly hand it over. Too often we walk around feeling as if our emotions are at the mercy of others, as if what they say or do has the power to dictate whether we have joy, frustration, or turmoil in our hearts. But that's simply not the case. The truth is, the only person who controls your peace is you. It is a choice, a mindset, a position of the heart that no one can forcefully remove from you. Think about how many times in life we say things like, they made me so mad, or I can't believe they did that to me, or if they wouldn't act that way, I wouldn't feel like this. But what are we really saying? That other people hold the remote control to our emotions. That they get to push buttons and decide how we feel on any given day. But that is a dangerous way to live. Because if we keep believing that our emotions are controlled by someone else, then we will spend our lives being tossed around by every inconsiderate word, every bad attitude, every unfair situation. Now let's be clear. People can be frustrating. They can be rude, selfish, and even cruel. They can hurt us, lie to us, disappoint us, and make choices that affect us in ways we never saw coming. But none of that has to take our peace unless we allow it. The reason so many of us feel powerless in the face of offense is because we have unknowingly given people authority over our inner world. We have allowed their actions to dictate our reactions instead of standing firm in the peace that is already available to us. Peace is not something that is given or taken based on circumstances. It is not something that fluctuates depending on how people treat us. Peace is an internal state that comes from within, and more importantly, from above. When Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives," John 14:27. He was making something very clear. His peace is not circumstantial. It is not dependent on the behavior of others. It is not something that shifts with the changing winds of human interaction. It is steady, it is constant, and it is yours to keep if you choose to walk in it. The enemy wants nothing more than to keep you in a state of agitation. He knows that a person who is constantly offended, easily angered, and emotionally unstable is a person who cannot fully focus on what God has called them to do. If he can keep you reacting to everything, then he can keep you from growing, from hearing clearly, from walking boldly in your purpose. That's why learning to take ownership of your peace is not just about feeling better, it's about being effective. It's about refusing to let distractions pull you away from where God wants you to be. When you recognize that your peace is your responsibility, you stop letting every little thing get under your skin. You stop allowing people to dictate how you feel. You stop giving your energy to things that do not deserve your attention. You begin to walk in a level of freedom that is unshaken by external circumstances. That doesn't mean people will stop trying to frustrate you. It doesn't mean the world will suddenly become kinder or easier to deal with. It means that you will be unshaken regardless of what happens around you. Look at Jesus. He was constantly surrounded by people who tried to provoke him, test him, question him, and tear him down. The Pharisees tried to trap him with their words. The disciples doubted him. The crowds demanded more from him, and yet he never let their actions determine his peace. He remained focused, unwavering, and calm even in the face of betrayal, accusations, and rejection. Why? Because his peace was not rooted in the approval or behavior of people. It was rooted in the unshakable truth of who he was and what he was sent to do. The same kind of peace is available to you, but you have to choose it. You have to take ownership of it. You have to recognize that no one else is responsible for guarding your heart and mind except you. And once you do that, once you make the decision that your peace is not up for negotiation, you will begin to experience a level of emotional freedom that no person, no offense, and no situation can take away. Offense is a choice. It may not feel like it in the moment, but every time you get offended, you are making a decision. You are choosing to take what was said or done and hold on to it, allowing it to settle into your heart and mind. You are giving it space to shape your emotions, alter your mood, and dictate your response. But the truth is, you don't have to do that. You don't have to let offense take root. You don't have to let it control you. You have the power to decide what you will carry and what you will release. One of the biggest deceptions the enemy uses against us is making us believe that offense is automatic. That the moment someone says something hurtful or does something wrong, we have no choice but to be angry, bitter, or resentful. But that is simply not true. If offense were automatic, then everyone would respond the same way to the same situation. Yet we know that's not the case. What offends one person might not even faze another. The difference isn't in what was said or done. The difference is in how it was processed. The way we process offenses determines whether they take hold in our hearts or pass through us without effect. Some people allow offense to take deep root, letting it grow into resentment and unforgiveness. Others choose to release it, recognizing that they don't have time or energy to waste on negativity. The Bible gives us clear guidance on this when it says, a person's wisdom yields patience. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense. Proverbs 19:11. Overlooking an offense is not about ignoring wrong behavior or pretending something didn't happen. It's about choosing not to let it define you, not allowing it to steal your joy or take your focus off what really matters. Many times offense comes from expectation. We expect people to treat us a certain way, speak to us with kindness, acknowledge our efforts, and show us the same respect we give them. And when they don't, we feel justified in being offended. But here's the problem with that mindset. When our peace is tied to expectations of others, we set ourselves up for disappointment. People are imperfect. They will fail. They will misunderstand. They will speak carelessly. And they will act selfishly at times. If we are waiting on them to always get it right before we can be at peace, we will live in a constant state of frustration. Choosing not to be offended doesn't mean people won't hurt you. It means their actions won't control you. It means you refuse to give them power over your emotions. It means you recognize that their behavior is a reflection of them, not you. When Jesus was on the cross, he was mocked, ridiculed, betrayed, and physically tortured. And yet he said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." Luke 23:34. If anyone had a right to be offended, it was Jesus. Yet he chose forgiveness. He chose love. He chose not to let offense have the final say. The enemy loves to use offense as a tool to divide, distract, and destroy relationships. He wants you to hold on to every hurt, replay every insult, and build walls around your heart so that bitterness can grow. Because he knows that a person consumed with offense is a person who is not fully free, a person who cannot hear God clearly because they are too busy nursing their wounds, a person who cannot move forward because they are too weighed down by the past. If you want to walk in true peace and joy, you must be willing to let things go. That doesn't mean ignoring issues that need to be addressed, but it does mean choosing not to be easily. It means understanding that most offenses are not worth your energy. It means deciding that your time is too valuable to be spent on anger and frustration. It means realizing that you are in control of what stays in your heart and what you release. No one else can make this choice for you. You must decide daily that you will not be easily offended, that you will not allow minor offenses to grow into major burden, that you will not carry unnecessary weight that was never meant for you. And when you do, you will find yourself walking in a level of emotional and spiritual freedom that few people ever experience. Shift your focus. The way you perceive a situation will determine how you respond to it. If you focus on the negativity, the offense, or the wrongdoing of others, it will consume you. But if you shift your focus to God's truth, His promises, and His purpose for your life, then nothing people say or do will have the power to shake you. Your peace, your emotions, and your well-being are directly connected to what you choose to dwell on. Too often, we let our minds replay the words and actions that hurt us. We analyze them, dissect them, and relive them over and over again. The more we think about the offense, the bigger it becomes in our hearts. What was once a simple misunderstanding turns into a major conflict. What was once an irritating comment becomes a deep wound. The enemy knows that if he can keep you focused on the wrong thing, he can keep you stuck in a cycle of frustration and bitterness. That's why the Bible tells us, set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. Colossians 3:02. When your mind is set on things above, you begin to see situations differently. You realize that your battle is not against people, but against spiritual forces that seek to disrupt your peace. You begin to understand that the enemy wants you distracted, discouraged, and defeated. But when you fix your eyes on God, everything changes. Shifting your focus means choosing to see people through the lens of grace instead of offense. It means recognizing that everyone is on their own journey, struggling with their own issues, and sometimes their actions have nothing to do with you. It means realizing that hurt people, and instead of reacting in anger, you can choose to respond in love. Doesn't mean you excuse bad behavior, but it does mean you refuse to let it control your emotion. When Jesus walked the earth, he encountered all kinds of people, those who loved him, those who doubted him, and those who outright rejected him. But he never allowed their opinions to dictate his mission. He never lost focus. He knew who he was. He knew why he was sent. He knew that his purpose was greater than the insults, the betrayals, and the misunderstandings. He refused to waste time being offended because he had something far more important to focus on. The same is true for you. When you focus on what really matters, your calling, your growth, your relationship with God, you stop giving energy to things that don't deserve it. You stop being controlled by what people think or say. You stop getting caught up in unnecessary conflicts. Instead, you walk in peace, knowing that your value and identity are not tied to how others treat you, but to who God says you are. One of the best ways to shift your focus is to practice gratitude. When you make a habit of thanking God for what is right in your life, you stop dwelling on what is wrong. You begin to see His goodness in every situation. You become less reactive to negativity because your heart is filled with appreciation for the blessings around you. Gratitude is a powerful weapon against offense because it redirects your attention to what is true, lovely, and praiseworthy. Another way to shift your focus is through prayer. Instead of rehearsing offenses in your mind, bring them to God. When you feel tempted to dwell on something hurtful, ask God to help you release it. Ask Him to give you His perspective. When you pray for the people who frustrate you, something shifts inside you. You begin to see them as God sees them. You start to desire their healing instead of their downfall. Your heart softens and offense loses its grip on you. Renewing your mind takes intentional effort. It requires replacing negative thoughts with God's truth. It means choosing to believe that no situation, no comment, and no action from another person has the power to define your peace. It means training yourself to let go of unnecessary burdens and keeping your heart focused on what truly matters. When you do this, you will find that nothing and no one can disturb your spirit. Emotions follow perspective. The way you see a situation determines how you feel about it. If you view someone's words or actions as a personal attack, you will respond with anger or hurt. But if you see it through a different lens, one of grace, patience, and understanding, your emotions will shift. The key to mastering your emotions is not in controlling people or circumstances, but in controlling how you perceive them. Many people think emotions happen to them as if they have no control over how they feel. They believe that if someone insults them, they must be offended. If someone ignores them, they must feel rejected. If someone mistreats them, they must feel hurt. But emotions don't work that way. They are not automatic reactions. They are responses to how we interpret what is happening. Change the way you interpret a situation, and your emotions will change with it. The Bible says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:02. Transformation happens in your mind before it happens in your emotions. When you renew your thinking, you no longer react to situations the way the world does. You begin to see things from God's perspective, and that changes everything. Instead of feeling rejected, you recognize that your worth isn't determined by people's approval. Instead of feeling offended, you realize that most people act out of their own pain and brokenness. Instead of feeling defeated, you understand that God is using every challenge to strengthen and refine you. Your emotions are like a train, and your perspective is the engine that drives it. If your perspective is negative, your emotions will follow in that direction, leading to anger, bitterness, and frustration. But if your perspective is rooted in truth, your emotions will follow with peace, patience, and confidence. That's why shifting your perspective is one of the most powerful things you can do. One of the best ways to shift your perspective is to ask yourself, what else could be true? When someone says something rude, instead of immediately assuming they meant to hurt you, consider other possibilities. Maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe they didn't realize how their words came across. Maybe they are struggling with their own insecurities. Looking at the situation from a different angle can completely change how you feel about it. Jesus modeled this perfectly. He never allowed his emotions to be dictated by people's opinions or actions. When the Pharisees accused him, he didn't get defensive. When his disciples doubted him, he didn't become insecure. When Judas betrayed him, he didn't let bitterness take root. Why? Because he saw everything through the lens of God's purpose. He knew that people's actions were often driven by their own brokenness. He knew that God's plan was bigger than temporary offenses. Because his perspective was anchored in truth, his emotions remained steady. If you find yourself constantly feeling hurt, angry, or frustrated by others, it may be time to examine your perspective. Are you assuming the worst in people? Are you allowing small inconveniences to ruin your peace? Are you viewing challenges as obstacles instead of opportunities for growth? Shifting your mindset is not about denying reality, but about choosing to see things in a way that aligns with God's truth. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for changing perspective. When you focus on what is good, what is true, and what is praiseworthy, your emotions naturally shift in a positive direction. Instead of dwelling on what someone did wrong, you begin to appreciate what is going right. Instead of magnifying problems, you start to recognize God's hand at work. Gratitude trains your mind to focus on the blessings instead of the burdens. And when your mind is in the right place, your emotions will follow. Prayer is another powerful way to align your emotions with God's perspective. When you take your frustrations to God, He gives you clarity. He helps you see things as they really are, not just how they feel in the moment. He reminds you of His promises, His faithfulness, and His purpose for your life. And when your mind is filled with truth, there is no room for unnecessary anger, worry, or offense. Emotional stability is not about suppressing feelings or pretending things don't bother you. It's about training your mind to see situations from the right perspective so that your emotions respond accordingly. The more you practice this, the more unshakable you become. No longer easily provoked, no longer controlled by what others say or do, but rooted in truth, walking in peace, and responding with wisdom. Pray before you react. In the heat of the moment, emotions rise, thoughts race, and words spill out before they are fully processed. When something upsets you, the natural instinct is to respond immediately, whether with words, actions, or even silent resentment. But that kind of reaction often leads to regret, misunderstanding, and unnecessary conflict. The power to stay calm, to choose grace, and to respond wisely comes when you pause and bring the situation before God first. Prayer is not just a ritual or a last resort after everything else has failed. It is the first line of defense against offense, frustration, and emotional turmoil. It is the space where emotions are stabilized, perspectives are corrected, and wisdom is received. When you take even a moment to pray before reacting, you give God room to work in your heart before your emotions take over. When Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, facing betrayal, rejection, and the weight of the cross, his first response was prayer. He could have reacted with anger toward those who were about to arrest him. He could have confronted Judas with harsh words. He could have let frustration take over, but instead he went to the Father. In that moment of deep sorrow and pressure, he aligned his heart with God's will, and because of that, he was able to walk through an unimaginable situation with peace and strength. When you pray before you react, you shift the control from your emotions to God's wisdom. Instead of responding in frustration, you gain clarity. Instead of saying something you will later regret, you choose words that bring life and healing. Instead of making a decision based on anger, you act with discernment and self-control. Prayer gives you the space to step back, breathe, and allow God to guide your response rather than being led by impulse. One of the reasons offense and anger take hold so easily is because reactions happen too quickly. The faster you react, the less time you have to filter your emotions through truth. But when you pause and pray, even for a brief moment, you disrupt the automatic cycle of reaction and give yourself a chance to process the situation differently. You invite God into the moment, allowing Him to work in your heart before words leave your mouth or actions follow through. Prayer also softens your heart toward the people who frustrate you. It is nearly impossible to stay angry at someone you consistently pray for. When you bring them before God, He shifts your perspective. He reminds you that they too are human, flawed, struggling, and in need of grace just like you. Instead of seeing them as an enemy, you begin to see them through His eyes. And when that shift happens, offense loses its grip and love takes its place. In Proverbs 15:01, the Bible says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." A gentle answer is not just about tone, it's about the state of the heart behind the words. When your heart is calm and aligned with God, your response will reflect that. But when your heart is ruled by irritation or impatience, your response will mirror that as well. The difference between the two often comes down to whether or not you have taken a moment to pray. There are situations in life that will test your patience, moments that will challenge your ability to stay calm, and people who will push every button you have. Without prayer, reactions will be based on emotions alone. But when prayer becomes the first response, not the last resort, you begin to operate with a level of peace and wisdom that nothing and no one can shake. Making prayer a habit before reacting doesn't mean you have to stop everything and enter into a long formal prayer each time you feel frustration rising. Sometimes it's a simple inward prayer. Lord, help me see this differently. Give me patience right now. Help me respond the way you would. Even these short prayers create enough space for God to work in your heart before emotions take over. When prayer becomes the automatic first step, peace becomes the natural outcome. Arguments that once escalated into full conflicts lose their power. Words that would have been spoken in frustration are replaced with wisdom. Offenses that would have taken root in the heart no longer have a place to grow. The discipline of pausing to pray before reacting creates a life that is